The story begins with a boy named Finney, who escaped a crazy kidnapper 4 years ago, after saving that kidnapper's life in the process. But the wounds from that nightmare still haunt him. Because of a strange power he inherited from his mother, Finney keeps hearing phones ringing, even when they aren't. And every time he picks up, a lost soul begs him for help. That's why he lives in constant fear. Finney's younger sister, Gwen, has an even more unusual power. She can see the deaths of other people in her dreams, their final moments. That night, she has a terrifying nightmare. A young boy in a yellow jacket runs for his life across a snowy field, but someone catches him from behind and brutally kills him. With his final breaths, the boy draws a symbol in the snow, something that looks like a W. Gwen wakes up gasping, the echoes of her dream still ringing in her ears. And then, a phone's ringtone begins pulling her, like some invisible force is guiding her. Step by step, she ends up in the basement of that same old house where Finney was once held captive. There, a broken black phone's cable suddenly starts moving on its own, and the phone rings. The moment Gwen picks it up, a chilling voice speaks, a voice that freezes her blood. It's her dead mother. She says she's trapped in a winter camp, and she saw the exact same dream Gwen saw, except instead of a W, she saw some numbers. The shocking part? Her mother's voice seemed to come from a time when she was still a teenager. That phone had somehow connected two different timelines. But before Gwen could ask more, the line cuts. Just as she's about to put the phone down, a wandering spirit appears right in front of her. The older brother of that kidnapper from the previous part, the one who died. At that exact moment, the door creaks open. Heavy footsteps draw closer and closer. The phone rings again, loudly, and Finney shakes Gwen awake from the nightmare. Gwen is terrified. She can't tell what's real anymore, and what's just a dream. But one thing was clear. That child, that dream, and the mother's voice, they were all trying to tell her something. Gwen and Finney decide that to uncover the truth, they must go to the same old winter camp where their mom once stayed. Gwen's boyfriend also joins them, and the three set out into the snowy night. When they arrive at the camp, the owner gives them rooms under the pretense of an interview, and on the very first night, Gwen has the dream again. This time, she sees another child buried under the snow, drawing a symbol that looks like a B. When added to the W from the previous dream, it's forming a word, WB. But the third sign was still missing. Meanwhile, Finney couldn't sleep. He stepped outside seeking some peace when suddenly the old phone booth, standing in the distance, started ringing loudly. At first, he thought someone must be pranking him, but curiosity made him pick it up, and the voice he heard froze his heart. It was the same man, the same insane kidnapper Finney had killed 4 years ago. Hearing that broken, hellish voice made Finney's blood run cold. Horrifying memories from the past rushed back all at once. Terrified, he screamed inside the booth, and that's when the door opened on its own. Finney didn't waste a second and ran for his life. At the same time, Gwen got trapped in another nightmare and let out a loud scream. Her condition in these dreams was getting worse every time. Finney shook her awake, but her fear kept growing, because now the dream, the phone, and reality were all blending together. The next morning, that same old broken phone booth started ringing again. Finney approached it nervously and picked up the receiver. This time, the voice had changed. On the other end were the 3 children who were killed near the frozen lake, but Finney couldn't see them. Their cold silhouettes stood silently by the lake, yet their words coming through the phone cut straight into Finney's heart. The glass of the phone booth began shaking violently, as if those children were pounding from the outside. They wanted Finney to find their bodies and give them peace. The same tragedy they suffered. Gwen had already seen it in her dreams. But Finney didn't know that yet. As evening fell, Gwen was pulled into another nightmare. This time she found herself in a cold, dusty, abandoned part of the camp. She just couldn't understand where her dreams were taking her. At that moment, the phone booth outside the camp started ringing again in a terrifying way. Finney gathered his courage and picked up the call. This time, it was the same crazy kidnapper from before on the other side. But now he wasn't human anymore. He had become a wandering, vengeful spirit. Through the phone, he spoke to Finney and revealed his true intentions. His target wasn't Finney this time, but Gwen. He wanted to invade her dreams and make her suffer the same torment he once did. Gwen was still trapped in her dream, and that spirit was creeping toward her. She wanted to move, but she just couldn't. Hearing her screams, others at the camp rushed into the room, but they couldn't see any spirit. All they saw was Gwen floating in the air, as if some invisible force was trying to erase her existence. Gwen was struggling desperately, but the unseen enemy was incredibly powerful, and it kept whispering the same threatening words again and again. Just at that critical moment, Gwen's boyfriend jumped forward and grabbed her. The others in the room were about to help, when suddenly everything around them started moving violently, like an invisible force was trying to stop them. That force was none other than the terrifying spirit trying to kill Gwen in her dreams. Gwen, her boyfriend, and Finney were pushed right to the edge of the cliff. Just then, Finney arrived and called out his sister's name. Hearing her name made the spirit pause for a brief moment. The next second, the invisible monster released Gwen, as if giving a warning. The game wasn't over yet. This was only the beginning. Gwen barely survived the fall, but her condition had worsened badly. She knew this spirit would not let her live. It was playing with her, increasing the pain, stretching the fear longer and longer. A little while later, everyone gathered in one of the camp rooms, trying to understand what was happening. Gwen described the boys she had seen in her dreams, their clothes, their faces. The camp's warden recognized them immediately. They were the same kids who mysteriously disappeared from this very camp years ago. He brought out an old group photo and laid it in front of them. And in that photo, not only were Gwen and Finney's mother there, but also the same dangerous man who had kidnapped and killed those children so many years ago. The same madman whom Finn had once saved by killing someone else. As soon as the truth came out, the brother and sister felt the ground slip from beneath their feet. They had no idea that their mother and that monster once worked together in the same camp. Everything was clear now. The word written in the dreams was actually a short code for that villain's name, and the kids were trying to expose him. But the question was, why had he come back even after dying? Gwen said the children had hinted in the dream that if their real bodies were found and buried properly, that monster's power could be destroyed. In the dream, she saw the kids underneath a frozen lake, so everyone rushed toward the frozen lake. They spent the whole day breaking the ice and searching, but found nothing. Exhausted, they returned home. As night fell, Gwen was dragged into the dream again. But this time the nightmare was far more terrifying. She saw her mother, and the truth that had been hidden for years. Gwen's mother had not committed suicide. The monster had killed her. She was trying to help those children when she was murdered. To hide the evidence, the killer made it look like she had taken her own life. Now that same terrifying spirit kept replaying the entire incident in front of Gwen, breaking her mentally. And then the boundary between dream and reality started to shatter. Gwen's body lifted off the bed as if invisible claws were tearing into her. Her arms and legs twisted in the air. Blood started to drip. Outside, Finn and her boyfriend panicked. They rushed in, trying to pin her down, cover the wounds, and scream to wake her up. "Gwen, open your eyes. This is not a dream. We're right here." But her breathing began to slow. Inside the dream, for the first time, Gwen felt a new kind of power inside her. The same fear that had controlled her for years. Now it was her turn to fight back. The terrifying spirit lunged at her. But this time, Gwen did not step back. Her words sliced through the air like knives. The moment she resisted, the wounds on her real body began to heal slowly. Gwen realized she was no longer just a victim. She had the full strength to fight in the world of dreams. Everyone returned to the frozen lake again. After hours of searching, finally, the first body appeared beneath the ice. The team sees a glimmer of hope. If they can find the bodies of all 3 children, maybe that demonic spirit's power will finally end. By evening, everyone's exhaustion was clearly visible on their faces. But once again, sleep took over Gwen, and exactly what she feared happened. This time, she finds herself directly under a frozen lake. On the surface above, that terrifying shadow, the same killer, begins attacking her brother Finn and the rest of the team. Since the others can't see him, they're completely helpless. Under the water, Gwen sees another body. She swims toward it and pushes it upward with both hands. The effect shows in the real world above. The moment the body reaches the surface, the spirit's control over Finn starts to weaken. Gwen quickly turns and swims in the opposite direction, where she finds the third and final body. It looks at her, and she pushes it up too. Now all 3 children have returned in front of the world, and at the same time, the killer's power begins to break. the dream starts to change. Gwen is now standing on the surface of the lake, facing the same monster responsible for destroying so many families. She takes a deep breath and says, "You're not alone anymore. I brought my friends with me." The next moment, deep cracks form along the icy surface. And from those cracks, the children begin to emerge. Some in their true forms, some as rotten corpses, but they all have the same mission. One by one, those spirits attack the killer. He screams and struggles, but his power is gone. There was no one left to save him. Gwen delivers the final strike and says, "Now it's your turn to burn, in the same place where you sent us." And in an instant, the spirit shatters into ashes. His terror, his game, all over. Finn screams loudly and grabs that invisible demonic spirit, slamming it against the ice repeatedly. Because of all the horrible things he did in life, he couldn't find peace even in death. And now the vicious Sam Bill is thrown into the freezing lake by the siblings. Suddenly, the spirits of the 3 children he brutally murdered appear. Together, they drag Bill's spirit deeper and deeper into the icy darkness, into a snow hell from which there is no return, forever and ever, down below. In the end, the siblings win once again. Finn has finally accepted the pain of his past, and Gwen now understands that her ability to see visions is not a curse, but a blessing from her mother. She can use these powers to help restless souls who suffered injustice find peace. This is where the movie ends. But here comes the real twist. Bill's spirit isn't completely gone. It's still trapped under the frozen lake, which clearly means the story isn't over yet. The filmmakers leave a strong hint that a sequel is coming. And honestly, if that's true, this film is definitely worth watching. Let me know your thoughts. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.